All right, let's get this party started. Let's get cracking. It's a Friday morning, cliffcentral.com, and we got some surprises for you today. First thing I have to say, and it's going to sound ridiculous. Leigh-Ann Mole says she's on her way. She's going to be a little bit late. Her cat is stuck on the roof. I kid you not. That's what Simpiwe told me this morning. Leigh-Ann will be a bit late. Her cat is stuck on the roof. Now, I know she's not lying, but the things that happened to this woman are probably the weirdest things that happened to any human being that's ever lived. But while we are waiting for her to, get the cat off the roof, this might end badly. That's all I'm just saying, just warning you. Might end a lot more badly than the cat being on the roof. We have with us this morning Shanray Van Wyk, who is a comedian, an actor, a writer, and a radio personality. He's from King Williamstown. The first person I've ever met from King Williamstown, I promise. Never ever met anyone else from the... Yeah, well, I mean, why would I meet people from King Williamstown? Don't you guys forced to stay there? Isn't there like a big fence around it and they keep you in?
I definitely think so.
But you may recognize him from the Outsurance Life adverts and from his role as Quentin Lee on the popular South African telenovela Scheme Sam, which, of course, has been a huge success. He's also co-written a film, is a former under-21 Currie Cup rugby player, and a former Boilermaker. Dude, you have got a hell of a CV. And let me tell you something. I like the variety. I mean,
yes,
because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of very average people in the world who are saying that they're in radio and they're influencers online. You know what I'm talking about. And and if they're lucky, they make it into like a soap opera as an extra. But here you are. You've played under 21 rugby. You're a former Boilermaker, which is probably the best part of your CV, in my opinion. Because I mean, God knows we need people who actually have skills in this country, right? And I don't mean that in some patronizing, like, it's so great you're a Boilermaker. I mean, like, if we had more of people that had those skills, we'd have less people unemployed and we'd have more things working properly.
I mean, like I literally try to make it in every single thing. Like I always thought to myself that if I don't make it as a rugby player, I have to make it as a professional in something that I have to do. So that's why. But before I became a Boilermaker, I actually worked at Capitec Bank as a sales consultant.
Which was a worse job? Which was a worse job, Capitec Bank or Boilermaker?
Capitec Bank. That was the worst job ever.
See, I bet you met more interesting people, did more interesting work, and probably earned a little bit more as a Boilermaker, right?
No, actually did not earn a lot as a Boilermaker because you know how wonderful our bargaining councils are. I mean, each and every one of them, they just fight for every cent that you make.
Wow, dude. Wow, that's a hell of a thing. But I mean, also with this range of experience, and as you say, you've got to try everything. But that's it. They call it the King Williamstown curse, right? That you have to try everything. I'm being horrible.
I mean, when you come from a small place like that, like where you literally have to wait for someone to die before you can get a job at the local shop, right? Because the town is so small. Like we know, like we literally know everyone. Like, hey, Uncle James is almost ready to retire. Better get my CV right. Be the first one there at the shop, right? So you literally have to try every single thing to make it out.
Oh my God. Sure. I mean, that's a scary thing about these little towns, and people don't talk about that very much. But all over South Africa, there are little towns where people are really sickling, they're really struggling, and in the bigger cities, people are like, no, it can't be so bad. It's nice. I've driven through there on my way to a holiday, and they don't understand what the real economy is like in those places. So, dude, it's really nice to have you on the show, and always good when we have someone on for the first time. Give some of the background that I didn't give. I mean, I just basically read out some of the things you've done, but tell us about you.
Oh, about me. So I am a stand-up comedian. It's actually like what I do for a living. That's my day-to-day. So I'm a stand-up comedian. I literally started my career 6 years ago. And it's been going the way stand-up is supposed to go, some good nights, some horrible nights.
But I mean, what a time to start doing stand-up, and then you have Corona come along, and that didn't make it easy, did it?
No, it did not. It is not a nice thing performing in front of your laptop, because the thing is, when you perform in front of your laptop, because when we used to do gigs, right, there would be this thing, and I know it's very narcissistic of me to say this, but you would literally enjoy the bet, like the pats on the back, if you had a good set. And if you had a bad set, you still feel it in the room. So doing that set, like a set, because we talk about like real problems, like not having a father,
Yeah.
not lying to people
Mm-hmm.
that you love,
Mm-hmm.
and when you close your laptop, it's like, oh my word, these things are real, and there's just no one
And
around you.
and what if you brought those things up and instead of making people laugh, you've made them cry, but you don't know because they've switched off their cameras?
But
Oh,
the
geez.
funny thing is, like, as you performing, you see people typing emojis, and you just see laughing emojis. So you feel all right. I think I did a good job. I think
No, I'm
I
sure
did
you
a
did a
good
good job.
job.
Listen, I've spoken to a lot of comedians in the last while, and a few of them have been doing this online thing. Some absolutely hate it, though. I just have to refer to this quickly. This is hilarious. G Star, when they saw you come on this morning, G Star says, "Thank God this isn't Eusebius." you, get, you get
I
people.
don't want to tell you how many times I get that.
You really do. I mean, I don't think you look like Eusebius. White Barry says, "I honestly thought it was Eusebius and was preparing my body." Oh my God, that's funny. And then, wow, I mean, there's so many. Here, Cabello says, "Good morning, everybody." For a second there, I thought it was Eusebius. A lot of people think you look like Eusebius, dude. Wow, that's horrible.
I know. I can see the people. I guess all colored people look alike. All right, guys. All
Mm-mm.
right. I see you.
No,
I see you. I see
let's be
you.
clear. This is Shanray Van Wyk. It's not Eusebius. All right. Hey, Leigh-Ann Mole, is it true that you almost fell off your roof just now trying to rescue your cat? What happened to
Gosh,
you?
shame. I'm in a new place, and she discovered the roof yesterday, and she was very impressed with herself,
Yeah.
but then figured out she couldn't get down. I couldn't get to her, so I went off to dinner, came home, went to bed, woke up this morning, and she's still up there.
Oh my God.
So I just placed some furniture to try and get her to jump down. Oh God,
What a life you have. I was saying to Shanray just now, who probably doesn't know how fucked in the head you are and how insane your life is, that this is the kind of stuff that happens to you all the time.
Oh, continuously.
Oh my God.
I mean, when I moved in on day one, she went into the neighbor's garden. She was in the herb garden all day. I ended up sending out alerts and called the SPCA and the vets because I couldn't find her. And she came back smelling of lavender and happy as ever.
So you just
problems of
interrupt
suburbia.
a hilarious misinformation scheme that we launched this morning, where we tried to portray Shanray as being Eusebius McKaiser just to fuck with our audience a little bit. But there is a mixed reaction.
I should actually start by saying,
yeah.
Yes.
Go on.
No, I wanted to say, because every second word out of Eusebius' mouth is, I went to Rhodes, right? I went to Rhodes.
Oh my God, shame. Is he still working? Has he got something to do? I mean, maybe you could give him one of your old jobs at Capitec or as a boilermaker or something, because I mean, he probably needs it right now. I'm not being horrible. I don't know where. Has he got a job at the moment? What's he doing? Carl is on your defense. He says you look nothing like Eusebius. And then Terence, who ironically is colored, says, "Wait, is Eusebius colored?" And apparently, I don't know if you know the latest, but there's a big movement going on in the Western Cape at the moment to actually have the word colored made a hate speech term, not just removed. Like, some people really don't like the word colored. The only people who are fighting for the word colored to stay are colored people.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say.
Because we like the word. We really like the word.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be called a C word. That is so weird. That's what's literally going to happen. Someone is going to be like, oh, he's a C word.
I just realized.
Okay,
but it's true. There are a whole lot of people I follow on TikTok who are explaining to people from America, for instance, their American audiences, to say, listen, we are called coloreds and it's not a bad word here and we're proud of it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, also there's famous there's music by like people who've used the word colored, whether it's colored or colours or whatever, and there's a culture there that people want to help survive. They want to keep it alive. They want to keep it thriving. And part of that culture is that people in it self-identify as colored. It's not a controversial thing to the people who are, what drives me up the wall is people from the outside who come into communities and then tell the community they should be worried about something that they were never worried about. Isn't that insane?
Because you know how weird it is, nah? Especially for colored people in South Africa, because like we literally just want to be recognized as our own people, because we celebrate our own way, we mourn our own way.
Right.
When a new baby is born into a family, we celebrate that baby in a different way than other cultures do. We just want to
Yes.
be recognized. But people don't recognize us. And now every Heritage Day, we have to feel weird standing in front of our cupboards. We just, I don't know what to wear today.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
it's such a weird thing that people make us feel.
Listen, and the colored people in South Africa have had 300 years almost of history to be able to decide that this is how they'd like to be identified, how they would like to interact with the rest of the world. You don't get some person from the outside coming in now saying, no, because of modern politics, we're going to force these people to talk a different way, to think about themselves a different way, to use different terminology. I mean, it's just so patronizing, frankly. And you know what? Don't fuck with the colored people. They'll teach you a lesson. Am I right? Am I right?
We definitely do.
Yeah.
But we don't want that stereotype. We don't want these stereotypes. We want those nice stereotypes, like you can't dance, or your credit record is nice. Those are the type of stereotypes we want. But
Dude,
also
there's
at
one
the other end,
there's one stereotype that I will always willingly and happily throw around about colored people, because it's absolutely true and it's something that they can be very proud of, is like there's more musical talent. And I'm talking about people who play instruments, people who sing, people who can write songs. In South Africa, the colored community punch way above their weight in terms of their contribution to the arts in general, but music especially. And it's just something that I think it's something maybe that is engendered in people when they're very young in that community in a way that perhaps it isn't in others. But yes, there's such a lot of talent. And I remember even from those days when we were on the road with Idols, it's just a phenomenal thing. Like there's some untapped talent traveling around this country and living in this country that is first rate. And anywhere in the world, they'd go, "Oh my God, you're so lucky to have people with that much talent."
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like ingrained in our culture. Like we love to sing and dance, and it's just something we love to be a part of from a young age. I can remember like when I was young, like I used to love Michael Jackson. That was like my thing, doing the moonwalk. So
we also like to sing and dance. We just can't.
Guilty feet don't have no rhythm.
Singing maybe, but dancing not always.
There's a stereotype that I completely embody. Like, you put me on a dance floor, it's fucking embarrassing. It's the worst thing you've ever imagined. Anyway, it is Friday, everybody, and you've made it to the end of the week, so that is a good reason to celebrate. And it's already, I mean, the first week of March is pretty much done. It's insane. Things are just happening so quickly. And there's bad news, because Russia is currently shelling Ukraine's biggest nuclear power plant. So we all know this is going to go really well. So as much as I wanted to wake you up this morning with good news, and we brought Shanray on to make you laugh and, to give us a good start to our Friday, I can't ignore the fact that Russia is doing the dumbest thing ever. Didn't they? I mean, I remember learning in grade 1, do not shell a nuclear power plant. This is bad for everyone.
Jeez.
Right? Get your hazmat suits, everybody. Have you got a bunker under your house? Because if you haven't got one and you live anywhere near close to the Ukraine, that's probably priority number 1 right now. There are a bunch of people digging bunkers all over Eastern Europe right now going, oh, God, here we go again. Remember Chernobyl? Not fun.
Yes.
How can we forget ever?
Oh my
What
God.
do you call it? What do you call those things that power a nuclear plant? Mercury. Do they still use mercury?
No.
I think so.
It's uranium. It's
Uranium.
uranium-238, which they use in. I mean, they do sometimes they use something called thorium as well, but mostly it's uranium, and that is the actual source of the radiation, which heats the water, which makes the electricity. That's the shortcut
Jeez.
explanation. And if you don't have a way of damping the radiation, in other words, switching it on and switching it off, then things can go very quickly from bad to absolutely catastrophic. And the results can be, radiation in the air and all kinds of stupid, terrible stuff. And I mean, there's a place in northern Ukraine where they they actually have a living, breathing example of this. I mean, they had to evacuate the village of Pripyat, which is right next door to Chernobyl power plant. There's no one living there now, even to this day. You can go there and they're like abandoned old blocks of flats, parks where the trees have grown out of control, swimming pools that now have roots in them, children's playgrounds where the swing just swings like in the horror movies. It's like it's a real shit show. It's a post-apocalyptic landscape. The only things that have happened there that you could regard as good are that the animals, remember, most wild animals have much shorter lifespans than humans, so they don't live long enough for cancer to develop. So they've gone crazy. So there are lots of antelope. There are deer that run around there. There are some wild rodents and things that are really, their populations have blown up, and a few predators too.
Do you think Putin Do you think Putin just wants to start a world war? I think maybe that's his main objective, is to be like, yo, bring it on. It's like, like a bully. Like you never understand the bully. Like, just come to school and start pushing people around. You just don't know. Like, yo, dude, what's wrong with you?
It's actually a really good question.
Or
a really good question.
Dragon Ball Z last night?
I would have said a while ago, even up to 2 weeks ago, I would have said to you, well, Putin's probably one of the most rational, sensible, sane people in the world, because he's planned this whole thing meticulously. He's a chess player, and I mean that in a literal and figurative sense. So he's a very smart man, and no one can doubt that he's been able to hold on to power for a very long time. He's entrenched himself with the Russian people. He's very popular, despite the fact that everyone in the West can't understand why he's popular. Someone like Joe Biden's got like 30% approval ratings. Vladimir Putin's got like 80% approval ratings in the USSR. Well, USSR, old Soviet Union, now modern Russia, because he's trying to repackage the old USSR and put together all the old republics. That's he wants a legacy, and a lot of people are talking about
Stalin. Maybe he just wants a legacy like Stalin.
Hopefully not like Stalin, because
not like Stalin, but just like the approval rating of Stalin.
Well, so what? Imagine you're Vladimir Putin, and this is what really requires you to be creative and also to be understanding, and even to a degree sympathetic to his state of mind. Imagine you're him, right? You've been in charge in Russia for, it's almost 20 years now, maybe more than 20 years. So you've exercised power in what is probably, you could call Russia a world superpower, even though their economy is like a third-rate economy. You've also got tons of money yourself. He's one of the richest people in the world, independently wealthy, to the tune of some $200 billion. So it's not like he's going to run out of money. If he just retired instead of going into the Ukraine now, if he said, you know what, I've had enough, I'm going to go and live in a nice big house. He's just built himself an enormous palace that would rival the ones that the Tsars lived in, 120 years ago. He's built this enormous palace in the Crimea, which was also a territory he seized from the Ukraine not so long ago. And apparently it's just the most luxurious place you could ever wish for. It's obviously very Russian, so everything's gold-plated and it looks a bit tacky. But he's happy there. He didn't need anything else. He gets taken seriously by world leaders because he's one of the few people who actually says what he's going to do. He's been telling us for years, this Ukraine thing is not going to work for me. I'm planning something. You guys just better be on your toes. And a lot of people are saying he might have gone insane. Like, megalomania. They talk about absolute power corrupting absolutely, right? There is an argument that he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. And maybe, and this is where I get to the point where you have to put yourself in his shoes. If you've done all the things and you've got all the things that he's already gotten done, like what do you have left? There's only one category that everybody wants to tick off after that, because he gets the blue light brigades, private jets, gets taken seriously. He can fly into any place in the world. You talk to anyone he wants to talk to. He's basically got the most extraordinarily elite life that you can imagine as a living, breathing human being. So what is left? Legacy. And what does that mean for someone who's already got a pretty impressive CV? Well, he now has to bring the world to the brink and maybe not take it back. But he knows what history is always the story of, massive events, of creating enormous amounts of either war or peace. And I'd love to hear what a psychologist might think of what he's doing at the moment. Because if you see his press conferences, these statements that come out of the Kremlin, where he's sitting at a desk on his own with the flags behind him, and you look at the way he's talking, it doesn't seem like he really gives a shit anymore. And he's playing with fire. Like he's really not afraid of any of these Western leaders, because all of them are weak. So who can blame him? But I think he's the kind of guy who's looking more and more unhinged. So you know what, Shanray, you may be spot on about the fact that he doesn't care anymore and he's gone crazy. Maybe that's what's happening.
I just think that it's a scary thought to look at Putin and be like, that means that nothing will never be enough for a person. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing can be enough. Like you can have all this power, all this wealth, but you're just like, I need more. I need more. I just need more of everything. That for me is a very scary thing.
Well, Tracy says the behavior panel on YouTube analyzed his body language, and it's fascinating stuff. That's these guys. In fact, I think my sister told me about them, and I've watched them once or twice. This is panel of 4 dudes who analyze body language, and they did it with Trump and with Biden and with Obama, and they kind of now obviously looking at Putin. I'd love to know what they get out of him, because he's also kind of one of those people who's very hard to read.
Do you
agree?
Face.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to play poker with that guy.
I think
freak me out.
The thing now is that once this has all been put in motion and has started, I think that's also a time in something like this where the person who's initiated it starts to fundamentally change behaviorally, because they start getting a taste of, oh, hang on, this is actually working. They start being fueled by haters and lovers.
Yeah.
And their psychology actually starts to change at this point. And
you see that
they aren't going to back down. They aren't going to back down now.
You see that happen with people who get famous overnight as well. They get it. The attention is just so sexy for them. It's such a massive thrill to get that much attention. And really, Vladimir Putin has been going to G8 and G20 conferences for most of his last 20 years. And he hasn't got a lot of attention. People are like, there's Russia, there's Vlad. They take him seriously, I think, but they didn't really give him much attention. The world certainly didn't. Now, different story.
I mean,
right?
now those things make sense. Like why he's on a bear, riding a horse.
Yeah.
That's attention. He's looking for attention.
I'm listening to an incredible podcast at the moment on Napoleon. And I see Steve says here that maybe just like Napoleon, syphilis has affected his brain. Well, there's no proof that actually happened to Napoleon, by the way, Steve. But this is the most unbelievable series. It's long and it's complicated, but it's basically about every detail as far as you could possibly go down into the source material about why Napoleon became the person he became. And I mean, he basically, within 7 years, he went from just being an army officer to being emperor of most of Europe. And the stuff that fuels people like that, the stuff that makes history, it's complicated. It's not pop psychology. It's not like your mom didn't give you enough hugs when you were little, or you grew up without enough fatherly influence or any of that shit. Those are the easy answers to some very complicated questions. And we don't know enough about Vladimir Putin because he's just an unknown quantity. That's the problem. And we're all sitting here this morning trying to figure him out. Can you imagine all the people in Eastern Europe who are busy trying to guess his next move, trying to figure out what this means for them? I mean, it must be absolutely terrifying. Anyway, I do want to move on because we don't have any answers here. We just have more questions. And I wanted to ask you, I mean, because we haven't had you on the show before. So I really want to ask you about your own life. Haven't you been engaged for a while now?
Yes, I've been engaged for a year now. And we got
Nice.
engaged like right when we went to level 3. And I thought, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to get engaged. And then I got engaged, but I'm engaged for a year. And I really want to know, like, how long can you be engaged for before it becomes weird? You know what I'm saying? Before it becomes weird, are we just gonna sit here 3 years in? Like, ugh.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Are you married, Gareth? I don't know. I don't know if you are married. Are you married?
I'm not married, and neither is Leigh-Ann. So we're actually terrible people to answer. But there are people in the audience who are much smarter than us about this. They might have some answers for you. But no, I wouldn't know, dude. I mean, I've got friends and family who've been dating for years and years and years, and there's no pressure. The only pressure for them is from the outside. Is like, you know, we were joking about this with Simpiwe the other day. Like when your grand says to you, "Hey, when are you getting married?" Because they're in a hurry, you know, they're looking at the clock ticking, and they're like, "If you don't get married and have kids, I'm not going to meet your grandchildren." And they're the ones who put pressure on. But are you worried about it? I mean, is your fiance worried about it? Are you talking about this and going, "Uh-oh, maybe we've spent too long being engaged. We need to now, to put it impolitely, shit or get off the pot"?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm feeling like. Because her parents are like, "Oh, so you guys have been engaged for a year. What's happening? What's happening?" Because we know, and I don't want to generalize, but we know how women's brains work, right? You know how women's brains work, right? Like they would suggest something, and then when they suggest something, you ask them why, and then because they don't think, like, a woman doesn't need to think further than why. I'm not saying all women, blacks, guys.
No,
I'm
I
not
know what
saying
you mean.
all women.
But there's
I
also
just mean, like,
they ask it because they're actually looking for other information. So they don't. And Leigh-Ann, don't take.
Because it's notoriously difficult to get information out of guys. So we've learned to fish and pull and ask the right questions.
But also, you want insight rather than just the answer.
Yeah, we want the full story in order to form a proper opinion. We don't just want a little bit. But also, you can be engaged for as long as you like. You know,
is that the census? Because I don't get that. When I think about our engagement, I always think about your time is moving. Time is moving, and things need to happen. And if you don't get engaged, if you don't get married within the 2 years, apparently, because what happens when you guys get engaged, everyone gets relaxed around you. You guys move in if you don't live together already, and it creates this fat and sit. A thing that people always say, and I always wonder, like, if we have to break up, right, for any reason, and you guys are not married, do we split everything, or the person that leaves, is that the person that just has to leave and leave all your things, even though you bought a bed together?
Don't even ask those questions, because you're going to just get into trouble. But there are some valuable answers here. So Corona's Boring says, if you've been engaged for 10 years, it's been too long. 10 years.
10 years!
And Tiger DC says, why get married? Just be committed to each other. All the other formalities are a waste of money. Vyasan says, carry on being engaged. Your balls have been captured when you present the ring. And Cheryl's got rules. Cheryl says you should be married within 6 months of the engagement. Once you go over the year mark, you're never going to set that date. Ooh.
The problem is it takes a year to book a venue. You've got to book a venue a year in advance, right? So that's generally what's accepted by society. And engagement does mean the intention to marry. So if you look at societal stuff, there is expectation, but it's up to you.
Trust you to be all practical about this. Book a venue.
No, it's true. That's the thing.
Because like Carol said, like Carol is one of those people that are mostly in my life, like 6 months. Guys, how long? It's a year? No. You guys have to get married. You guys have to get married. You guys have to get. I was wondering, like, when is the threshold? Like, I don't know what the other guy's names were, but 10 years. You said like 10 years, you'd be fine. That 10 years is a long time.
Well, Parallel Parking says, my sister was engaged for 10 years. She's been happily married for 30. Heaven can wait. That's good news. That's good news.
I'm getting motivation. I am definitely getting motivation.
Again, I'm in no position to offer you any kind of advice on this, but I would say that it depends from couple to couple, what you're comfortable with. I mean, if you and your fiance are open and honest with each other, and everybody thinks they are, but you know, there are degrees of that. Like some people are so open with each other that they'll use the loo in front of each other. I think that's too much. And then there's too little where you're actually openly lying to each other. Everybody should be somewhere in between and hopefully in a sweet spot where you can trust each other. I mean, otherwise, why be in a relationship? And you got to figure it out. If you're getting a strong feeling from her, and listen, can I tell you something else this is going to be unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's really about her. Because guys, I don't think we could care less. Unless you're going to have children, I don't really and this is just me. I'm not speaking on behalf of all men because I haven't got a mandate. You know, I didn't get my piece of paper that says, here we go, you are required to speak on behalf of all men. To me, unless you're going to have kids, I don't see the point of getting married. But for women, it's a very different story. And if your fiance needs to get married and you're kind of half and half in it, do what she wants because you're not going to regret it. And it's not like you have as much in that thing of marriage as she will have. I mean, you obviously want to be with her. Otherwise, you guys, can I also give you a compliment? You've been through Corona together. I mean, if you can survive those 2 years of being around each other as closely, as much as that, I think any relationship that survived last 2.5 years, you got a medal already. So if you love her, dude, and she wants to get married, just do it. Do it for her, because I get the feeling that most guys are, yeah, okay, if you want to get married, we'll get married. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have a woman date to speak for all women, but
mandate the woman.
But it is the next level of relationship security, and that's what women want. They want the stability and the security in order to give passionately in their lives to someone, and provide children for them, and look at all of that. They need to feel 100% secure. So it's just that next level.
Yeah, because obviously, like, a promise isn't enough. We need the government involved here. You need to sign for your promises.
You need to swear before God.
And you'll get these crazy people on the outside. They'll say things like, "Well, if we're not married, I won't be able to visit you in hospital if you're sick." Like, wow, you're really reaching for a reason here. But yeah, okay, all right. So listen, there's some very funny comments here, and as soon as I've done with those, we've got to get to some headlines. So let's have a look here quickly. Ethan says, I've met couples that got engaged in their 20s, and they're still engaged at the age of 60. Plus, they have lots of money. Well, maybe. Shani says, it ruins a relationship to marry sometimes. Yeah, we're getting mixed signals from people here, hey?
Yes, that's what I also see.
Men who give in to family pressure make unreliable husbands, says Parallel Parking. Sure. Okay. Seamus McGeehan. Okay, McGeegan. He says, I got married after a 9-year engagement. You can't be happy all of your life. Cheryl says, I call the ring the suffering. Oh, wow. We got some cynical people here this morning. Bob says, length of engagement is also a cultural thing. In the East, the length of engagement is determined by the priest assigning the most appropriate date of marriage based on reading the stars. Wow. Okay. Didn't know that. Inga says, I've been with my man for 14 years and only married for 3. We never deemed it important to prove our commitment to others, but legal things are way easier with that piece of paper. Well, there we go. And Tatenda says, this is going to be an unpopular point of view, but I'm going to say it anyway. Whenever he says that, Cliff Central sponsors start sweating. That's true. That is spot on, Tatiana. You are 100% right. All right. And Yonda Ndigi says, morning team, I actually preferred the date for a long time to marry. If it happens, I think there should be a 10-year period, and then you can marry. Well, Yonda's also got rules. Yonda and Cheryl have rules. That's all I'm saying. The rest of us are
don't you like become a totally different person after 10 years? Like every 10 years, you change and you're not the same person anymore.
Well, do you want to get physical or spiritual about this? Because I mean, there are two different points of view. I've heard about exactly this, and it's fascinating. Which one do you choose? Do you choose the physical or do you choose the spiritual?
Let's go spiritual.
So spiritually, you are not anything like the you of 10 years ago. And if the you of 10 years ago saw the you of now, they wouldn't be able to recognize them from the inside or outside. And the same goes for the you now, looking back at your 10 years ago you. Just think about how you felt about, you were so sure about certain things. You loved these people. You just think about your friends, for example. Like the friends you had in your life 10 years ago who you thought, we're going to be friends forever. I'm never not going to spend a day around these people. And look at how things have changed. How many of those people are you still friends with 10 years later? Maybe one or two, but not the whole lot. Right, none in your case. So, and spiritually, you change as you get older. They say you get wiser, but you might also get like you might get a lot more spiritual. You might get a lot less. You might become more cynical. There's so many things that change in your spiritual, emotional, and mental makeup that it's very, very difficult to. You think you're the same person when you consider yourself. You're like, oh well, I know what I was like at 15. You don't remember what you were like at 15. You can't even remember. If I said to you, what did you do last Tuesday morning? You really have to strain to think. Like, what did you do last Tuesday? I mean, unless you do every Tuesday is the same, you're going to go, I can't actually remember, right? That was just last Tuesday. So forget about it. You think you're the same, but you're not. And physically, because it's an easy explanation, they say that I think it's 15 years, basically every atom that used to make you physically has been exchanged for an outside atom. So, and this is what, there are a bunch of philosophers who've been looking at this. And then the scientists have actually corroborated the evidence that there is not a single atom in your body right now that was there at the time you were born. Because we're constantly, so if every atom that made up, you, Shanray, at the time you were born, if every atom that was in you then is now somewhere else, it might be in a star, it might be in the ground, it might be in the air, it might be in another animal, then what are you actually made of?
Like I've heard about, I've heard this theory before. They said if two twins were born on the same day and you gave them two identical watches and you put the watches on them and they would go through life. By the time they're 60, you would look at the clocks and the two clocks would be different because both individuals travel through time differently. So you'd find that one watch was a little bit behind the other one. That's
maybe,
one of the theories.
Maybe the one oak just didn't put batteries in his watch. That's what I'm thinking.
No, but
the one
theory goes like the watches are perfect.
Well, I don't know about
the
that.
Watches would never fade.
Because we do have standard measures for time. So I'm not sure about that. But anyway, all of this is quite esoteric. And maybe this is more interesting to many people than the physical explanations. I'm not sure. But it is interesting. I mean, Cheryl also says, Cheryl's busy this morning. She says, in a 10-year cycle, so spiritually, you'll both change. Your goals will change, and sometimes many, many other things. Don't get me wrong. I believe in commitment. They say that the person that you meet now will be your life partner. Well, I mean, you also, everybody thinks there's one soulmate for you out there, but that's just so silly because you've seen it on Survivor when people go onto that island and then they think, oh, I'm never going to like any of these people. They're all terrible. And then what happens? They fall in love in Survivor, right? Even though these people have nothing in common. And it happens. Like the more you're around someone, usually the more chance there is that you two will develop some kind of a relationship. If there's attraction, that's a plus. There's no such thing as a soulmate, if you ask me.
Yeah, and it's also, it's kind of a tragic way to think, because if anything does happen to that person that you think is your soulmate, it's going to be very difficult for you to move on if you believe that there was only ever one. So it's kind of unhealthy to think that.
That's true. That's absolutely right. All right.
So as we okay. No,
yeah,
I was just about to say, like you could probably find a couple of soulmates, but it would also depend on, as we were talking about people changing over the 10 years. If that person changes with you, I mean, it could work out.
Yeah, of course.
Good.
Well, you just hope they don't change into someone you really don't like, because that can also happen. They might change
or you change into a person that you would like that person.
Maybe, but you could become more in love, and you could also become more more of a situation where you dislike each other. Who knows? I mean, these are not questions.
Exactly. I mean,
the divorce rate is it above 50% now, or is it still on 50?
No, it's around there.
It was one of the biggest reasons for my divorce.
So 50% of the time you guys change into different people. I mean, that's what that stat really shows.
I do want to quickly look at a few headlines just so we know what the hell's going on in the world. Maybe you guys can help me on this. And feel free to wade in. And also, as I was just reminded, you have to like and subscribe and all that shit, please, because YouTube, otherwise the algorithm doesn't, you know what it does. Anyway, I have to keep reminding people of that stuff. So here's an easy answer that I need from both of you. The Center for Child Law here in South Africa wants the Constitutional Court to confirm a Gauteng High Court ruling declaring provisions of the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act unconstitutional to the extent that it criminalizes the use or possession of cannabis by a child. Do you think that people under the age of 18 should go to jail for the possession of cannabis? Easy question.
I don't think
you were in charge?
I don't think they should go to jail.
No,
I really don't think that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of a family decision than the law getting involved.
Shanray, you were going to say some more about that?
I would say like Leigh-Ann is saying, the family. No, most of the time family doesn't even, like, the family's not there. Father has 3 jobs, mother has 2. So I would really think that a child should not go to jail for cannabis. But we should probably invest in more educational, because the science is there that does say if you are under 18 and you use cannabis, it does slow down a few things because you're not fully developed yet, and it does interfere with your development. So I think there should be educational, like that's where the money should go, not to pay lawyers, to put children in jail and pay judges. The money should go into education and basically just educate everyone around cannabis, like use from a young age.
So in other words, we're all agreed. Okay, everybody agrees. We're going to stop sending kids to jail for cannabis. I think that's a very good suggestion, and that is what the what is it called? The child.
They're going to score more cannabis in jail.
Probably, yeah. I mean, how's sending a person under 18, even if it's to a juvenile delinquent center or a jail for kids? By the way, I don't even know if we have those that are still any good. I think they probably would be more scary than even the adult jails if you think about the way that we run things in this country. I don't see how any kid going to jail is going to come out better. I think they must rather take their chances. And frankly, again, do you want the government involved in what people are putting into their own bodies? I don't think so. I don't think they have any job in there. I mean, Josh says what you said, Shanray, and that's a good point. Cannabis is not good for young people. Almost 90% of schizophrenic attacks are cannabis-induced. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that it's probably not good for kids, and therefore it's not good for them to be smoking weed. But at the same time, who are you to tell someone else whether or not their children are allowed to do X, Y? Imagine me walking to someone else's house and saying to them, your kids shouldn't learn Afrikaans, they should learn Xhosa. I mean, who the hell am I to do that? And the same goes for government. What makes government so important that it can walk into people's houses and say, we're going to arrest your child because they're in possession, by the way, not even using. So using is a whole different argument. Imagine you asked...
The government I'm saying the government should never be involved in household things. I mean, like, look at the lesson we're learning right now by letting people censor us. And I know, like, like when people censor each other and like, you can't say this and you can't say that. It's always like when you let something out of the bag, like when like we always thought that Mandela was an amazing president, and we thought as a country, we thought, no, every president we're going to get after that is going to be this amazing, and we gave him all, and we gave our president all the power to change as much as he wants. And now when you let that thing out the bag, you can't put it back in, because now if you let
right?
Yes, because now when you let the cat out of the bag, it's almost like I lost my train of thought there. It's almost like when the government said, "Oh, you're not allowed to hit your child," and everyone was like, "Okay, I guess we'll accept it." Now there's just going to become more and more things, because you can't put that back anymore. You already allowed us in your house and to tell you that you can't beat your child, and because we've been beating our children for years, and they came out fine.
And you're going to have people coming into your house, agents of the state, saying to you, "Oh no, you're not allowed to smoke or drink," because they will. I mean, once you give them this much, as you rightly put it, they're going to come and take more, right?
Yes, they always do. They always come for more.
I'm always very, very worried about the kind of people who want to tell other people what to do in the privacy of their homes. That is always, those are the worst. We call them Karens, but they could be any kind of, shape and background and ethnicity and language group and rich or poor. They could be anybody, but anyone who wants to go into someone else's house and tell them how to live their life, that kind of person, I don't think is a very good person. And I don't want those people in charge of me, that's for sure. Anyway, let's look at this next story, which I think you're going to like too. This is interesting. Apparently, Western Cape tourism has seen a steady growth in domestic and international markets. Good news for the Western Cape, because their tourism sector was hit hard by coronavirus, obviously, and all the lockdowns and the fact that people couldn't come in. But apparently, they say they're seeing steady growth, and a number of campaigns and programs have been launched in recent months to help Cape Town and other parts of the province get back on their feet again. And different waves of corona meant recovery was uneven, but they say the market is at about 73% of what it was, and that's good. It's climbing. International market at 43%. So the local market 73, the international market 43, but we'll get back up there to where we should be at 100% soon. So good news for the Western Cape. I hope that's true for other provinces as well, because we need business and we need international money to come back in, especially in the tourism sector.
Yeah, I like the Western Cape. The Western Cape aren't they trying to be like a sovereign nation? Is that idea still in the pipeline?
Well, we had a guy on yesterday who had a big argument with Pumi about exactly that. I saw they carried on arguing with each other on Twitter after the show, so I just stayed out. I was like,
oh boy.
This is so weird, because I saw a picture of John Steenhuisen like literally standing between the border where you just get into, I just don't know on which side, but as soon as you get into the Western Cape, and like when you get into the Western Cape, like then the new road starts where they develop the road and the road looks nice, but on the other side the road looks horrible. And I was like, oh, this is that neighbor. If you guys share a door, and they'll just sweep on their side, even though it's the same patio. It's basically the same patio, but they'll just sweep half of theirs out. But I'm happy for them. They're getting their things. I'm happy that we don't wear masks that much anymore. And I'm especially happy for the people with gold teeth. Oh man, they were suffering. The people with gold teeth, they were suffering. Can you imagine just walking through life hiding your investment? To be very rough.
I hadn't thought about the gold teeth community. I mean, no, that's a very valid point. All right, very important news. The TV soap opera Neighbours? I mean, I don't know if you remember it at all. Neighbours has been on in Australia for 37 years.
Wow.
Right? And two of the people who came off of Neighbours, who you may remember, Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan were on the show right in the beginning. Remember them? Once that's how they looked, now they both have walking sticks and Zimmer frames. And
certainly not.
And they both became
pop
stars. They both became pop stars as well. That's Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan. And there are a number of other stars that have come out of Neighbours. 37 years of the same soap opera. Well, the bad news is they've announced that it will come to an end. Finally.
Oh.
Yeah. It's going to come off the show.
Is that longer than how long was Days of Our Lives? How long was that?
I think that's been even longer, and that's still going.
Oh, it's still going.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I'll check. I don't know how long Leigh-Ann, Google how long Days of Our Lives has been on TV while we're busy doing this. And then Neighbours have made the announcement, 9,000 episodes that they've broadcast, and they say it's coming to an end in the summer. Following the loss of our key broadcast partner in the UK, and despite an extensive search for alternative funding, so they ran out of money, we simply have no option but to rest the show. So it's not as popular as it once was.
Okay, it's still going.
Yeah.
It's still
Days of Our
going.
Lives?
It's been going since 1965.
Jeez.
They are on season 57, episode 106. That was on the 2nd of March. And in the news, we have questions like Days of Our Lives recap. Kristen escapes the island while Gwen panics upon learning that Abigail and Sarah are ... Days of Our Lives speculation. Who will be next to be possessed? I still got people being possessed.
Wow. I remember when that was the only time I ever watched Days of Our Lives, when that one chick was possessed by demons.
Or something. What is her name?
What was her name?
Marlena.
Thank you. Do you remember that? That was the only time I ever watched soap operas. Yes, it was interesting. I mean, she was possessed. Her eyes would roll in the back. Do you remember that? They'd go black.
It was like the only way.
I do remember that. I remember that episode so well because that episode like freaked out. Like, I'm from a small town, Breitbach. That's where I'm from, and it's very religious there. Like it's a very, 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 very religious place. Like the friend I used to have, his name was Waven. He used to his father was a pastor, right? His father was a pastor, and like Waven used to rob people with a gun, right? Unlike his father, who used to rob people with a collection basket. But there's a story for another day. But what I want to say is when we saw Marlena, right? When we saw Marlena, it freaked everyone out. We started throwing away our Tazos because people were like, oh, the Pokemon are part of the demon. And like people freaked out. People freaked out in Breitbach. Like it was a did you see her eyes? She's a demon. I told you demons are real. Dude, that's why I remember Marlena.
I've never watched soap operas, but I watched that. That was amazing, and what a clever idea, because I think their ratings just eclipsed all the other soap operas at that time. I mean, because it's on daytime, so kids could watch it too, and it must have been terrifying, like you said, for you guys when you were kids. Unreal. So Days of Our Lives, Brendan says, my gran used to watch Days when I was a toddler, and I'm 40 now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, it's been on for 66 years. You said 1962, right?
1965.
1965. Yeah, about.
Here's some flashback. So Tracy says the golden days of Days of Our Lives was when Marlena was possessed, but when Stefano de Mera was like Putin, and John Black got lost in the swamps, and Bo and Hope could never get their shit together. I don't know who all those other names are, but I remember Marlena.
Jeez, what a fan.
Wow. Unbelievable. Back in the day, says Ethan, it was all Days of Our Lives, All My Children, etc. These days, all the old timers are super into telenovelas. Well, I mean, you've been in a telenovela, right? Shanray?
Yes, I've been in Scheme Sam, which was a weird experience because while I'm on Scheme Sam, I played Quentin Lee, who's a scammer, right? So he scams people. Scheme Sam is basically an educational telenovela where they basically teach the public about things that happen, like scammers, where people offer you jobs, but then you have to pay to apply for the job and pay to get the job. And as I'm playing my role, and it goes to ads, and here I am selling insurance, which is weird. This is very weird.
I must have thought, sure, we chose a bad role model here for the TV ads, because you know how nervous everybody gets.
But luckily, our insurance wasn't so bad. They're like, all right, just chill. I was like, but it's acting. It's not really me, but I do understand where they come from, because it was a weird thing, but it was fun. It was fun because like they always choose colored people for basically your villains when it comes to telenovela. Because my first day on set, they were already building a jail. I was like, all right, I guess I know where my character's going.
That's terrible. All right, well, here's a flashback for you. So here's the theme song for Neighbours, right? in case you hadn't heard this in 100 years. So this one's coming to an end. So bad news. Neighbors, right? Then there's this one. Do you remember this? There are a couple of soap operas here you may or may not remember. You know this one?
Santa Barbara.
No, not Santa Barbara. That's Bold and the Beautiful.
Bold and the Beautiful.
Yeah, it's Bold and the Beautiful. Here's Days.
Like stands to the hourglass. These are the days of our lives.
So are the days of our lives.
Right. Horrible music. But then if you think that was written in the 60s, no wonder, right? Unbelievable. There's so many others. Do you remember the old Isidingo? Oh, I loved that. The old Isidingo theme music. Oh, no, I think that's the new one. Here's the old one. No, man, the old... No, it's not old Isidingo. Is it Isidingo? They used to have that...
No, that's Generations. That's Generations.
Was it Generations? Oh, I can't remember.
That's Generations.
Damn. Anyway, lots of fun. Ads during the soapies. Clientele, that number 0800 123 600. Damn, that number stuck in your head, says Gentle Inflatables. That's hilarious. Sanela says, guys, women are amazing. How do they manage multitasking? I'm listening to the show while trying to find a hiking trail, and I feel like I might trip and fall face first. Hey, careful, Sanela. Careful. Yeah. The Generations one wins. It was Generations. You're quite right there, Shanray. That's exactly right. That was hilarious. Don't forget Love Boat, says Chris T.
Oh, yes.
Was that a thing here? Love Boat? I mean, I remember I knew about it, but I think I ever watched an episode of Love Boat.
That used to play during the day. And people watched that. Oh, Love Boat is on. Because it make them think and encourage them to save for the MCG trip. I don't know what was that boat's name.
MSC, that's right.
MSC, yes. It would give them encouragement to save for that trip, because that was the thing that like old people look forward to doing at the end of the year. Like, I need to save. Let me watch Love Boat.
Yeah. Cheryl says Falcon Crest. I don't remember that. And
yes,
Dallas.
I remember that.
You remember Falcon Crest? I don't. Mm-hmm. Days of Our Wives.
I remember Dallas.
Yes, Dallas.
I remember Dallas.
That was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge.
The
My favorite
soap. Oh, I watched that whole show for the belt buckles, because Jay had amazing. All the characters had amazing belt buckles.
Corona's Boring says my favorite soap opera is that Parliament live show. Now, if they just lock the possessed ones in the closet, then we'd be safe. Oh, that's exactly right. Sure. Spot on.
Parliament is very entertaining. Like my favorite is Julius. Julius is my favorite. Not as a politician, but just like as a person. Oh, I love him. I really do. Like, he's so funny. The other day when he tried to change the stem, he's like, "No, we need to change the stem to something, Baie mooi, South Africa, baie mooi." I was dying on the floor. I was dying.
That sounds brilliant. Oh, man.
He's so funny. He's really funny. Like, he's so funny. Julius, he's my favorite. But not as a politician, just as a person.
I get it. You don't have to defend yourself. We know you're a big EFF supporter. It's fine. We're allowed. We're allowed EFF support on the show. Don't panic. All right. Shanray Van Wyk is with us. We've also got Leigh-Ann Mole, and you and me and everybody else will be back in a moment or two at 7 o'clock. CliffCentral.com. Lots of good stuff on the way. Don't go anywhere. Do you suffer from collectivism?
I started collecting when I was about 8 years old.
Do you have an obsession with objects?
I sort of got into collecting TV cars.
Are you a fanatic? A devotee? Are you someone exhibiting enthusiasm or strong passion?
When lockdown hits, when everyone was kind of bored at home, they started Googling, like, what are these things worth these days?
Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating.
The frame's total value is probably about 12,000 Rand.
Possibly a little weird.
I developed this infatuation with the Statue of Liberty.
Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and The Scoin Shop.
Up next in the Autotrader podcast.
Oh, I think just the fact that it's electric, compared to the ICE cars that we're so used to, it's a totally different car, different engineering. Driving a battery car, it's so different. You get instantaneous power, you get a lot of power. It's very quick off the mark. So I think you have to experience it, because you can hear about it, you can read about it, until you drive it. Until you get that smile on your face. It's
and literally, you haven't stopped smiling since you walked in. It's insane.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
That's right. And you can catch Autotrader's George Meany with us in just a couple of minutes' time. He's going to be joining us for the Auto Central pod this morning at the end of the show. So stick around until just before 8 o'clock if you want to see George. We've got Shanray Van Wyk with us this morning. Where are you at the moment? You're not in King Williamstown now, are you?
No, I'm at my house in Melville.
I was going to say, because they don't have internet in King Williamstown, do they?
They do. Probably not fiber. We got that rain, the rain.
I'm being horrible. I love giving the Eastern Cape shit, just because they get, a lot of them get very cut up about it. Oh, you guys, no need to be mean. I mean, it's still good friends.
You're not the only one. Everyone gives us a hard time.
No. Well, Shanray is with us this morning, hanging out with me and you and Leigh-Ann, and we've got George coming in a little bit later on. We may also have a surprise for you somewhere around 7:15 this morning, so stick around for that. But if you are keen to start your investment journey, but you aren't sure where to start, we have a new podcast for you. It's on the Unpacking Wealth Creation with Investec podcast. This is obviously Investec Bank. You know them well. Investec Wealth and Investments wealth managers and investment specialists provide insight, and this is really useful for anybody who wants to put their money in a place where it will grow and where they will be able to see dividends, and will be able to look at it in a couple of years' time and go, I was very pleased I did that at that time. And if you're one of those people, you need to listen to this. It'll give you all the information that you need to know as you start your wealth creation journey. And by the way, you don't only have to listen to this if you already have money. The whole point is that if you haven't got money and you hear about this stuff before, and then you start making money, you invest and you get involved earlier. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. So they unpack the basics of Investec and investing, but they also look at market forces that are shaping investments, the different asset classes that you can invest in, and other factors important in building your wealth. Do not miss a single episode of this new podcast. It is called Unpacking Wealth Creation. You'll find it on cliffcentral.com, and it's brought to you by Investec. Go and take a look today. So, Shanray, I wanted to ask you about something that you get very angry about, and I don't blame you. You want to know when we will eventually hold beauty pageant winners accountable for the promises that they make before they win beauty pageants. And don't smile now, because I know you take this very seriously, and don't give the impression that you're not serious. These people, have been lying to us. They've been lying to us for how long about world peace? What has any one of them ever done for world peace? Right now, if one of the winners of Miss Venezuela or Miss World, if they just go over there and give Vladimir Putin a good time, we wouldn't have a war. But what are they doing? They're cutting ribbons and posing for photographs with kids. All the wrong things. Live up to your promises, right?
Yeah, it's almost the same like politics, no? It's exactly the same thing, because it's a popularity contest. So I always watch these beauty pageants, and I'm like, I'm gonna use my platform to empower women. We're like, all right, nothing has happened. I'm gonna use my platform to end world hunger. What? End world hunger with the? Why don't you sell that crown? If you sell that crown, you could probably put a dent in world hunger. You probably could.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
It's time to. But have you noticed these small time? You know these small time beauty pageants, like the little ones that happen in small towns, or even like the ones that call themselves Mr. or Miss Universal Person of the Moment or whatever. They've got like these long titles because, Miss Universe and Miss World has been taken. And then they've got these very long titles because someone has just seen a way to make money. And those people, shame, they don't even get prizes or anything when they win those pageants. And don't they have to like raise money for charity and shit? Because I get emails from people and they're like, oh, please can you feature me on your show because I've got to get sponsors. And I'm like, that's not why we exist, so that you can get sponsors, you know? And if I do it for you, you know what's going to happen? All the other 24 finalists are going to want to be on as well. And then I'm in big trouble because you can imagine how boring that'll make the show, right?
The whole thing's so antiquated. I still think that pageant that we had was the best.
Yes, a Mr. and Miss Gareth Cliff pageant where we actually had people with special talents, right, Leigh-Ann?
Yes, exactly.
We had, in fact, we actually, I got a message just on Tuesday from Greg, who runs like operations and everything else at Cliff Central, and he came in and told me that he met a woman, and she's one of our clients now, and she wanted him to please tell me that she won because she had a freaky talent. Do you remember the one who could like dislodge her shoulder or something, or she could clap her hands at the back or whatever? Like she had a particularly strange. So that one, she let us know that she's still around and she's now got a serious job in corporate South Africa. She's a serious businesswoman now, but she's very proud of the day that she was on the stage showing everybody how she could dislocate her shoulder and clap at the back. I think that's a hell of a thing. Good for her, you know?
Oh, Lord. Yeah. That's much more interesting than a beauty pageant, that's for sure.
Well, when last did you even watch a beauty pageant?
Well, I told you I watched the most recent Miss South Africa or Miss Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like to see how they've changed because, you know, they try very hard to do the whole women empowerment thing, but they're still being judged by their bodies in bikinis. So, it's an interesting dynamic and it's very antiquated.
Carl says when he was 11, he won Mr. Universe at the Beacon Island Hotel in Flet.
Beacon Isle. Oh, Lord.
Oh, that's awesome. Mejuffrou Olyfees is currently going on in the Karoo somewhere. Ay, liefie, says Tracy. Yeah, you see, those kinds of pageants. I mean, listen, if it gives a kid confidence to win a pageant, but I always find those children pageants very creepy. I find them really, really upsetting.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people who run them.
It was definitely something my mum didn't want me involved in, and I didn't want a part of it either. And I remember I was with my gran and my aunt.
Don't lie, Leigh-Ann. You were too ugly, and the other little girls were much prettier than you. That's why your mum was just protecting you.
Well, then she had a very good reason to. But she'd left me with my gran and my aunt for the day. And to her new, you know, on the in-laws side, she just newly married him.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at a shopping center and there was a competition for children, beauty competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they got me at home, they curled my hair, they put makeup on me. And they took me to one of these things and I had to walk on the stage. I felt so uncomfortable. It was the worst thing ever. And when my mom found out, she was irate.
Really?
Yeah. Absolutely furious.
Didn't you,
because
Shanray?
If you don't come first, it's going to hurt your confidence.
So, Shanray, didn't you win Mr. King Williamstown back in the day? I think that was you.
No, I did not win
you
Mr.
Sure?
King Williams. I don't think they have a Mr. King Williamstown. I don't think
well,
they have.
First of all,
we had talent. We had talent shows though.
Oh yeah, no, you must have won one or two of those. But isn't it called something else now? It's not called King Williamstown anymore, right?
Yeah, it's called Quince. I think I'm pronouncing it properly. Quince.
Wow.
Sounds rude.
Now I understand something about what Dr. Robin's saying. So Dr. Robin says, don't paint us all with Rebecca's brush. Quince and Imonti are pretty legendary. I don't know what, I don't know anything in that sentence. I can't, she may as well have been speaking just pure Xhosa to me. I wouldn't have known what she was talking about. But you actually are from Quince, which sounds cool. It almost sounds like when you know when you're on the loo, Leigh-Ann, and it goes Quince.
Because chicka ploinks.
when it does that.
Exactly. All right.
Also, there's a very famous singer there as well,
Who?
Quincy Jones.
Or Beyonce. Beyonce. Oh, God, we're being stupid. All right. It is Friday. Give us a break. All right. So, listen, I'm going to welcome somebody who we haven't seen in a long, long time on the show, and I'm thrilled to have him with us this morning. Our old friend, Casper de Vries, is going to be doing a live show, which he wants you to know about next week, Wednesday night, and you've got to go, especially if you're a big Casper fan. And we thought we'd bring him in to chat about that and for a little bit of a catch-up. Casper, how are you?
Hi there. Nice to hear your people talking about pooping and now net.
Well,
That
you
was,
know, Casper,
that's
nothing's
how
changed,
I came
eh?
into this conversation. No. It's totally my world.
Yeah. How are you doing? And what's news? I see you're looking good. You're looking happy, healthy, and it
Thank
seems
you.
like you're back on the road doing some stand-up comedy and doing some shows. This is excellent news.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's nice of you. It is. Yeah, I'm starting only now to do shows. I've gathered the strength to do it, and I will tell you, how I got to that. And I think I'll tell a bit of it in the show as well. It's quite interesting. But it's nice to be back around people. So that's good.
So were you completely isolated during COVID? Did you hardly see anybody? Were you kind of locked down in the strictest way?
I was, because of where the place was where I stayed was very isolated. So I enjoyed that very much. And it's my dog Kent and the other dogs there at the center. And you didn't see, at the beginning it was very strict. Remember, you couldn't, can I drive 2 meters? And everyone was like, the police are watching you. I don't know. We were like that. And then gradually it became a way of life and so forth. But I didn't see anyone. And then, did I tell you about the big bite I got from the tick?
No, a tick bit you.
On top of everything else, it's like, who wrote this? Joe.
A tick.
I don't know.
A tick. A bosluis.
A bosluis, which sounds more grillerig than a tick. A tick sounds like, but yes, so in between all that, I remember I moaned with you the last show. I said, that the reception of the TV show wasn't that well, and I was very shocked and very sad about it. And in that time, I had a tick in the garden, and I didn't know, of course. And then inside the house, I saw, hello, Tiki. Oh, Tiki. And then...
So you found the tick on you, and you realized you had tick bite fever.
Afterwards, I saw him, and I and then, but it's more like that one.
The blue one or the little one?
The little one.
So gross.
And then I really got fever. I've never had it, so I didn't know that. But what the fever will do to me. But I was crawling around, making sounds like someone who is high on a very bad mixture of tick and heroin.
I never knew that ticks and tick were actually related until today.
Exactly, I think they are.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Tick is the one they make in the laboratory.
Yes. It's really bad.
Tuck, I mean. Yeah, very bad. Anyway, so I moved. So my whole world sort of folded in, And I moved from my lovely Johannesburg, where I stayed for years and years and years, to Pretoria.
Ooh, nice. So how was that for you? You haven't been back to Pretoria for years, because you did grow up in Pretoria, right? And your mother used to live in Pretoria.
Yeah, we did grow up there, and I knew I shouldn't go back, but now I have. And I can tell now, if you were born in the place and you were like happy to be free and out of that place, never go back.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, Elon Musk was born in Pretoria, and apparently the whole lesson that we should learn is that if you want to be successful in life, get out of Pretoria. That's what Elon Musk teaches us, right? Right, Casper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And never come back. Never come back. So you get away from a certain kind of vibe and feeling, and all of a sudden, out of necessity, economic necessity, the COVID thing, everything sort of imploded. So I had to go to Pretoria, stay here with friends, and it was. Well, I'm getting used to it now, but it's not the same. I'm telling you, Pretoria has got a different ozone layer. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
wow.
So it's quite lonely here as well. And then I started to see more and more doctors to see what the hell it is. But it is basically the nasleepinge of a Lyme disease tick.
So this is a very serious thing. I mean, like we don't take dogs get biliary, right? That's what they call it when dogs get it. They get a kind of tick-bite fever for dogs, but it's actually a very serious thing. And there are people who've died. There are people who've died from tick-bite fever. I remember because I grew up in farm. As a kid, I had tick-bite fever when I was probably about 10, and you get the most terrible headaches, right? You get really bad headaches.
Very. I go through the various stages in the new show because I thought it would be interesting. But you do go from, oh my goodness, from being so depressed to being attacked by that virus's hardest qualities. And so you are being told things like you are not worth it and what you are worthless and all the time while lying.
All the mental stuff
all the negative stuff.
I mean, but you, Casper, let's be fair. You were crazy before tick-bite fever, so I'm not terribly surprised.
Oh yeah, no, thoroughly. I've got a certificate, yo.
No. Just to let people know, because your show is on Wednesday, right? Next week. You've got to book your tickets now. It's called Puza Comedy. It's Casper de Vries. Also, you've got Mo Motebe there. You've got Dylan Olifant, and you've got Morgan Beatbox, all performing.
I've got. Sorry, I can't. I missed you there.
No. So I said 200 Rand tickets at the door, 150 Rand if you book on puzacomedy at gmail.com. So go and do that ASAP. And it's a gas
Dylan Olifant.
Yes.
And that took a lot of months to say because every time he asked me, I said no, because I had no self-confidence in myself. That's the tick fever for you. And I can't do shows anymore, man. And then I decided one day, no, the hell with it. Let's do it. I'm less for people again.
And we need you back. I mean, you're still one of the funniest people in the whole world, and I would be very, very sad if you don't perform again. I'm glad to see you back on stage. So listen, Casper, very nice to talk to you. Good luck for the show next week, and we'll catch up again soon, huh?
For sure, man. Thank you for the talk. Bye.
Very, very nice to see you. Cheers, Casper. Bye-bye. Casper de Vries. You see, I mean, so he had bad tick-bite fever. Only could happen to him.
Jeez, I've had it too, and the exhaustion was another thing. Wow, just want to lie on this sofa all day. It takes it out of you, man.
It's a horrible thing.
And I have to ask, did your cat give you?
No, actually didn't have cats at that stage. And what happened was we were away in the bush for a while with friends, and we stupidly took out blankets, put them on the grass to watch the stars at night. and I got spitten on the back of my neck.
Listen,
Yeah.
what you've got from your cats is something else. That's called toxoplasmosis. That's a serious thing you have. That's definitely
no.
no doubt.
Cats can spread some nasty stuff. I've been lucky with mine, but yes, there is that. I think that's when, as pregnant women, you aren't supposed to handle cat litter at all. Because you can get severely ill with a specific. Is it that? What
it
you
is?
called it,
It's
Gareth?
toxoplasmosis. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
It's a really, really scary
can harm
disease.
the baby.
It makes rats insane. It makes cats insane, and it affects humans very badly too. You can go and Google that if you've got an hour to kill today. Toxoplasmosis is very serious. Someone said that apparently the ticks, they like the butt crack and the armpit. That's where they usually. So I'm going to go after the show and I'm going to have a shower, a long shower. I'm just going to
wash your bits.
I'm going to make sure that in my butt crack and under my armpits, I don't have any ticks hanging around.
Yeah, don't forget the tackle.
Yeah, Casper says it affected him for a long time, so I'm not going to take any chances. Michael says tick bite fever has nothing on TikTok fever. But
it's like malaria as well. It stays in your system for a long time, and you have these recurring backflashes.
God, that's
Not
terrifying.
great.
A backflash? You mean a flashback?
Yes, those.
You got that brack to flunt. That's what you did. I don't vaccinate my cats because they wear masks and do social distancing. He's on fire.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people have cats. Cats are so, I don't know. I feel like a cat feels that they're better than us. I don't know, in a weird way.
Do. No, they do.
They absolutely do. I could never have a cat. I'm not a cat person at all. I want to call my animal should come, my animal should listen to me. When I say fetch.
Cats don't care. They don't care about you.
They don't
care.
Really don't. I want my pet to wear, like the team that I support. I want to buy a jersey. And we all know cats do not like to put on anything other than.
No.
Some people have learned that lesson the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently, there's this new thing while we're talking about health generally, and it's a story Leigh-Ann was going to tell us about, and maybe you still got it there with you, about the beads that they put into mice that actually take out their tumors within a week. And this could be a possible cure for cancer that they've stumbled upon. And if it turns out to be a very valid treatment for humans, we may be able to do some really, really interesting things in medicine going forward. They call it a drug factory bead, right? A drug factory bead.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit dodgy, but what is it exactly?
It's a tiny little thing the size of a pinhead. And this little drug factory, once injected, you see the whole thing with chemo and those sorts of treatments is that they affect the entire body. They fill the entire body with toxins.
Instead of just the tumor.
Yeah. So this is more direct. You can actually inject it into the part of the body where it's needed. And this little drug factory works continuously to produce high doses of interleukin-2, which is a natural compound that activates white blood cells to fight cancer. So what's really great as well is you don't need any really invasive surgery for it. They can be just implanted. They've been doing it in mice. And with just in a few weeks, they're obliterating cancer in mice. They tested advanced stage ovarian and colorectal cancer in mice. And in as little as 6 days' time, there could be a treatment already ready for human clinical trials just later this year.
Bring it on.
That's really fascinating.
Can you imagine if we managed to defeat cancer in our lifetimes? I mean, wouldn't that be the greatest thing? How many people do you know you've lost from cancer? People who, young and old. I mean, I heard a story the other day. My mom was telling me about someone that she knows whose husband is my age. He's in his 40s and he's got like stage 4 cancer. The guy's on his way out. It's just the saddest thing. You think if you could develop a treatment like this and you could get it early enough, I mean, you could give that person a much longer, much happier, much healthier life. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Absolutely.
It would be
And
amazing.
it actually is, it's quite relevant to me as well, because also someone that I know through someone, 32-year-old woman, this week, her the machines were switched off after lots of decision making by the family, and she leaves her husband, a 2-year-old child, and a child that's only a few months old.
Oh my God!
I mean, that's just like the worst tragedy in life.
And that was also cancer.
Yeah.
Gee.
It's kind of a thing now where I see, like, I think COVID did that, where a lot of facilities are working together now, because I don't even know, like I saw on Twitter the other day, apparently they found a cure for HIV and AIDS.
Well, they've certainly been able to treat it.
I mean, it could be just a rumor, but I was just thinking about how COVID made everyone just work together.
Well, no one in the world should die from having HIV these days. You shouldn't be dying of AIDS. There are treatments available now. I mean, antiretroviral drugs, and they've been very successful in being able to stop what was a death sentence. I mean, do you remember when we were kids, they used to say to us, the worst thing that can happen to you is you get AIDS because you will die. And at that stage, there weren't any treatments, and it was true. Like if you got AIDS, you would die. And now, obviously, we've made huge strides, and we don't even take note of how far we've come in these kinds of developments. Obviously, when someone writes the history of the 20th and 21st centuries, which they will do in 100 years' time, and they look back, they'll have perspectives. They'll say, that corona thing was or wasn't a big deal. And then they'll look at things like HIV and AIDS, and they'll say, wow, these people figured out how to sort that out in under 20 years. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, expectations have changed a lot after a COVID vaccine was developed so quickly. We're like, hey, come on, how long have you been working on these other?
Yeah, we have unrealistic expectations, but man, if we could solve the cancer thing, that would be unbelievable.
That would be amazing.
Oh man, I tell you what, because that is, I've just heard so many awful stories. I know people, I've seen it happen, and it just feels so unfair when it's cancer. And for thousands of years, people have been getting this, and it seems, based on the fact that we are living in much more complicated times, we smoke and drink, and we don't necessarily eat healthily, and there's all kinds of stuff in the air and in the water, and people are saying cancer is more prevalent than ever before. I don't know if that's true or not, but if we could solve that one, oh man, we could improve.
But then even if we do solve that one, we still need to solve the other side, the human side, which is the stigma. Because before COVID, people that used to have TB, right? There was a requirement for them to wear a mask, and they didn't want to wear a mask. They were like, no, if I wear a mask, people are going to know I have TB. I don't want to wear a mask. And they would literally keep spreading the virus. Now I think TB is almost eradicated, or almost, because people were wearing masks. So that's the only thing we still need to face, the human factor.
I don't know about that, if TB's been eradicated. In fact, TB was a complicating factor for many people who did die of COVID, because it's obviously a respiratory disease. But if people who have TB feel more comfortable wearing masks now, well, that's great, because we all have to wear masks now when we go out and shops and things. But I don't know how long that's going to carry on for, and I hope not too much longer. Dr. Robin says they have similar stuff for prostate cancer, little radioactive beads. Those beads are awesome, but unfortunately, they only work for certain types of cancer. We still have a long way to go, says Hermine.
I mean, when you think of COVID, there are a few variants of COVID, but if you look at cancer and the way it affects different systems in the body, it's very, very vast.
HIV sufferers are, in the 80s, sold their life insurance policies because they thought they were definitely going to die, and then many of them didn't. Now there are court cases against HIV survivors. Wow, that's interesting. That's from Michael. Again, I don't know if any of this is correct on the evidence basis, but someone will argue. Yeah, someone will argue. I mean, we've got smart people listening to us. They'll tell us the truth. TB is still one of the biggest killers out there, says Stevie. So that I think is true. And then Ethan says, this genetic mutation has found a relatively small group of people, mainly white. What is that? A genetic mutation in the bone marrow? That if you have it, you can't get HIV. Okay, all right. Yeah, I've heard about that. But I don't think it's a cure yet. And they still have to figure out how to turn it into medicine. So we've got to take baby steps here. We often get excited because a study like Leigh-Ann's comes out, and then, you read that and you think, oh, good, they've got a cure for cancer. But it's there's still a lot of steps in between. Yeah. Carl DeSantos says here, what are you guys talking about? I have 2 TVs and no mask. Didn't know about this. Okay, yeah. See, I don't think that's right somehow. Cancer is devastating. Lots of people talking about all these diseases. Let's try and not be depressing on a Friday morning, though. There's more interesting stuff to talk about, and we do already have the Ukraine and Russia at war with each other. Let's look at the positive. If they've discovered anything that can make us healthier and live longer, I'm all for it. I mean, I want to live forever, right? That's my plan.
Yeah.
So you do the symbiotic thing where you transfer your consciousness into a robot? Because I feel like that's the only way you would probably live forever.
Yeah, I just don't know if I want to be trapped in
a robot Gareth Cliff. Oh, that would
I just
be.
don't know if I want to be trapped in the metaverse. I mean, that's also where people are going to live forever, right? So
there was a why. Did you hear the story about the metaverse where a woman was complaining, basically saying that she was kind of groped in the metaverse?
Oh no, you're kidding me.
Yes, I was reading the story and I was like, why didn't you just log off? Like that would have been the easiest thing. Your character would disappear, right?
When we don't have enough Me Too movement in the real world, we need to create some in the metaverse. That's the whole story there. So,
but why are there people in the metaverse trying to grope other people in the first place? Jesus.
Well, again, just like Shanray said just now, it's humans. It's the human factor. Humans will. There are creeps in the real world. There are going to be creeps in the metaverse. I'm afraid. That's how.
And I mean, extra creepy in the metaverse because
your identity is kind of hidden. Yeah.
Right. Carl says, "Oh, you said TB, not TV."
Oh.
That makes sense. All right. Yeah, unbelievable. A virtual sexual assault. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So you got to be careful in the metaverse. Listen, I've only ever tried VR goggles on 2 occasions. Both times it made me kind of dizzy. Now, I know that they were probably first generation ones and maybe they've improved them. But when you take that thing off, you actually need like a couple of minutes to, and if anybody's listening now who's done the VR thing, you need a couple of minutes to kind of reset, because otherwise you feel like you've been on a roller coaster ride. You feel like you've been on a theme park ride, because
it can kind of make you feel a bit car sick.
Yeah. So if you've done that and you have a different experience, please tell us like it's getting better, because if I have to put on those things and spend my life every day in the metaverse and I have to be wearing a set of VR goggles that make me feel that way, I'd rather take my chances in the real world.
Otherwise, Valoid's going to be your best friend.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
But they have more things now to make it more realistic. So they got this walking pad now where you can walk and you would walk in the virtual world as you do. So people go for runs. I mean, that's a nice one where you can go for a run. You can set up your treadmill and you could really feel like you running through the city. Early in the morning, which is impossible if you live in Joburg. Do not running over the Mandela Bridge. You can literally practice.
I can't even walk from my bedroom to my patio without tripping over the carpet or something.
Yeah, exactly. So how are you going to manage in the metaverse? But I do like that idea. I mean, imagine how much fun it would be to run around a different city if you are a runner every morning. Mm-hmm. You just put on those goggles and suddenly you're in Berlin. The next day you're in Rio de Janeiro. Next day you're in Chicago. It's kind of, that would be fun. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to do that, but I wouldn't want to live in there. I don't mind going for a run in the virtual reality world or the metaverse or any other funny place that people are going to create in the future, but I don't want to live there. I'd actually much rather just go there.
It's a weird thing that you don't want to do. I mean, like 8-10 years ago, we'd be like, I don't want to express my feelings on Facebook. That sounds like I'll rather go talk to my therapist or just talk to a friend. Why must I put my feelings out there? But now every single day of our lives, how we feel, we tweet, we do that. So it could be a thing where everything would be in the metaverse, like in that movie Ready Player One, where everything is there, all your money, all your real estate, everything that you own is in the metaverse, and you out here just living in a trailer or just living in a container.
Your real life is just so horrible, but you're playing these games the whole time. I mean, Corona's Boring puts a good point up here. It's a quote from Elon Musk. He says, strapping a TV to your nose doesn't put you in the metaverse. That's true. I mean, we're talking about a bunch of different things. We're talking about, the Facebook metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg keeps talking about. We're also talking about virtual reality. We're also talking about gaming. And we're also talking about the social media aspect of these things, which will all come together at some point. But some people just think, like Ethan, that the whole idea is cuck. That's what he says. But Corona's, this is interesting. Like, what if you wanted to try running in Kiev right now? That would be a hell of an adventure. I wonder if it would be in real time.
Apparently, I saw a tweet from a guy that just continued his normal routine in Kiev. Just every morning he goes for a bicycle ride, and that's what he just keeps on doing.
Yeah, I saw that. I just don't know how much of what we're seeing out of Russia or out of the Ukraine at the moment. I'm really worried about how much is true. We know there's propaganda. There's always been propaganda. But the way people can generate this stuff now in a second, it doesn't take a whole lot of money or a whole lot of, you used to, if you wanted to fake news, you had to work pretty hard once. Now it's not hard to fake news. And there's so much stuff that I see in the news media and I go, is that really happening? Is that true? Because I don't know for a fact that some of this stuff is right. And it just doesn't feel, a lot of it feels like it was almost manufactured by Hollywood, Some of the stories of these heroic acts, or, these people who've kind of learned to use Kalashnikov rifles in the last 24 hours. And I know that some of it must be right and some of it must be true, but how do you even know what to trust? Because if media had any scruples of credibility, they lost it during COVID because people were spreading so much bullshit around. So now when I see this stuff on the news, I'm not even sure I believe it.
Well, that's why it was interesting with what you said about following the current news on an Indian news source.
Yeah, correct.
And also, interestingly enough, yesterday, my mum and I were sitting together. She watches the news all day. And
That's bad for you, by the way. Watching the news all day. Oh, talk about sending yourself into depression.
She does watch other stuff as well, but she likes to know what's going on. But interestingly enough, the Russian news channel just was stopped on DSTV.
Really?
It just says has been taken off the air.
Why?
I'm not sure. It's I don't know if we in South Africa stopped them or if they've stopped themselves.
Someone at DSTV said, "Oh no, in solidarity with Ukraine, we're gonna." This is what I think has happened.
That's what's scaring me. Yeah,
we're gonna turn. Don't take away information sources for us because you think you know better than us. How dare you? I mean, if you've got a subscription to DSTV, that's a reason to cancel it, if you ask me. Not because you support Russia, but you want to see what the other side is saying. Otherwise, how are we going to know what they're thinking? These are other human beings. We need to know how their brains work. What is wrong with these people? This, again, Shanray, this goes back to what you were saying earlier. Like, the government has no business, and neither do corporations, frankly, in shielding us from ourselves, right? If you want to know what the Russians are thinking, and if you want to know what goes on RT Russia Today, that channel, if that's the one that you're talking about, Leigh-Ann, that's outrageous.
Yes, so
outrageous.
I see here now, SANEF has said they're concerned after the Russian news channel was taken off DSTV. That's the SA National Editors Forum, talking about the suppression of the news channels. So that was, okay, MultiChoice said on Wednesday that sanctions imposed on Russia by the EU led to the global distributor of the channel ceasing to provide the broadcast feed to suppliers, including MultiChoice.
Oh, so RT has stopped supplying themselves?
Yes.
I wonder if that's even true. See, I don't know. Again, we live in this post-truth. We live in this post-truth world.
We really
we don't know, right? You don't know what the hell's true.
We don't know.
and you're never sure whether
because, like,
someone
I always said, like, even when the pandemic started, right, there was so much misinformation, but people didn't want to even like interrogate. Like, if you had misinformation, let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion and see, and just like stop shutting down people immediately. Like, I remember like a ridiculous one where someone says, this Chinese rice, this is what carries the coronavirus, right? And and it was on WhatsApp, right? And then I just had a conversation with the guy. I was like, okay, so you think that corona comes in the rice? Remember, when this thing lives on a surface, it can only live for so long on a surface as it needs a body, it needs to survive. That's what the virus wants. And after that guy was like, I think you're making sense. But now when you just shut someone down, it's like, oh, you idiot. Just shut up,
also,
keep quiet. That guy is going to go to his corner and be like, yo, if it's rice, I mean, why are they so against the rice? It must be in more things. And then they go down this rabbit hole because the internet will show you what you want to hear.
And when the authorities, when the authorities shut this stuff down, and then they actually close a channel. I don't know if that's what's happened. Then what people do is they immediately think, well, there's a conspiracy. Like they don't want us to know the truth, and I'm not talking about dumb people, because obviously there've always been really stupid people who've believed, like, that they came and they stuck prods up the cow's assholes from outer space, and then the aliens abducted their daughter or what. They've always been crazy people. You remember, like, there were magazines and newspapers that used to publish stories about like Bigfoot and
the Old People magazine, yeah,
they used to publish all that crap, and people who liked that stuff used to buy it, and who cared if they believed dumb things. But these days, if you do that, and ordinary, reasonable people are prevented from finding information that they consider to be interesting, curious, a bit weird, maybe even insane, the minute you stop them from accessing that, and they're reasonable people, they start going, maybe they're trying to control the way we think. And that wouldn't be an unusual conclusion to come to, right?
I mean, just look at these flat earthers. Just look at how many flat earthers. Every single year, there's another million people who become flat earthers because, like, they're trying to shut down the information. Like, have a discussion with the people. Like, talk to them. Because when you hide things, people just, because their theories are wild. I've never heard such wild theories that gravity doesn't exist, that we are literally moving just wild things. So we need to talk. We need to discuss these things in dialogue. It's the only way we can solve anything.
There's a flat earth society. There are people who are on a Facebook group where they talk about how flat the earth is every day. I mean, I can't imagine. You've all seen it from outer space. I actually had an interesting conversation with a guy who's a flat earther. I think we did an interview with him, and I even put it on the show. It's still available. If you go and look up on cliffcentral.com, you can see the flat earther, like, trying to explain his point of view. And the guy, I mean, he comes on there like he has facts, and he presents this, and he says, well, the Antarctic is what goes around the world, and then there's a big ocean. And I mean, it's it's a whole different way of thinking of things. But if we didn't have people who thought that way, then I suppose it would be kind of boring as well. So you've got to allow some people to come up with dumb theories. Why not?
And discuss it and entertain it for a little bit. And then, shut it down with some good facts. That's what we should do, instead of just shutting down and not even allowing the person to come to the table and discuss what they believe in.
Yeah. Well, here's a good question from Tracy. She says, do flat earthers think the moon is flat?
No, actually, what they think is,
are we the only
they
object
think
in
that the
space
sun
that isn't round?
Yeah, they think that the sun and the moon are connected by a pipe or a stick, I don't know, and it rotates. It rotates like this, and the sun is basically working like a flashlight. That's what they. That's what they believe.
Is every single night over the period of a whole month, you get to watch how round the earth is just by looking at the moon and seeing our shadow on the moon. And it doesn't take a genius if you have a basic understanding of, like, if I put my hand here in front of my face and there's a shadow on my hand from the light in front of me, that's because my hand is in the way of the light.
And it's hand-shaped.
Right, and it's hand-shaped. Now, if I do that, then it's round-shaped. And it's just, it's unbelievable how simple.
But you know what they
like
do? They always like to explain everything with God. So they say that we are basically in a petri dish, and this is what God designed. God designed us in a petri dish, and the earth is flat with a dome over it. That's the weird part for me, with a dome over it, and space doesn't exist. The moon doesn't exist. Everything is artificial because they're trying to make us worship the devil. And I was like, ding, 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 the devil, there we go.
And the devil's always at the end of one of these arguments, right? It's always like ultimately ends in the devil or God. That's kind of where all these arguments go. But the funniest thing is there are people who've gone into outer space in spacecraft of various kinds at various times from different nations. And they all have actually watched as they go up through the lower and the middle atmosphere into the upper atmosphere, into that layer where it becomes space. And they've seen the Earth and the curvature. In fact, you could see the curvature of the Earth if you were in a plane and you're flying high up enough. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's
controversial.
It's a weird thing those people believe in.
Unbelievable. Anyway, I mean, listen, let's allow the crazy people to bring their theories. Let's not shut them down is the point, right, Shanray? Bring it on. Right.
Yes,
okay.
That is the point. Because you learn, you gotta learn things from them a little bit.
Well, no, you might just learn that they're really crazy, but that's also okay. That's a good conclusion to come to. Let's talk to George Meany, who's definitely not crazy. George, it's good to see you. How are you?
Hey, good on you, Gareth.
Awesome.
As a team, I'm very, very good. Maybe the flat earthers think that the moon is flat because the moon doesn't rotate. It's just a matter of perspective.
Well, the moon doesn't rotate. That's interesting because we only see the same side of the moon all the time, right? It's always facing us. And there is a dark side of the moon, which is also interesting because people have speculated over the years that all kinds of things are happening on the dark side of the moon that we don't know about. All right. But back down to earth. What have we got to talk about this week when it comes to the world of cars? George Meany is, of course, the CEO of Autotrader. He always brings us the most interesting and the stories that affect us the most. So here he is this morning, Friday. It's the way we end the week. What do you got for us, George?
Well, first of all, a funny story, which is sent it to you there, Gareth. This gentleman decided to combine his Ford, or should I say Chevy truck, and a boat. This thing, it's got hydraulics. It works with, just for fun. The thing doesn't get into the water, but he decided to make this land yacht, that's what he called it, or should I say a truck boat? And he's done it to Jaws. That's what he did.
Oh, Lord.
It's shaped like a shark. I mean, in the front it's got teeth, and I mean this is real creative genius, if you want to call it that. I mean, I don't know if you can't drive this thing. You certainly can't float it on water.
Yeah, does it drive in water or what?
No, it doesn't. He just did it as a tribute to the movie Jaws.
It looks cool, and he's obviously he's had a lot of time during coronavirus to be building stuff. Nice for him. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, the creativity. People must be creative. It's not like, don't go and sit on your couch and think about the earth being flat. Make something.
No. There we go. Spot on.
And then a story, Gareth, that I think is good for Ford. Now, if I can lead up to the story about Ford with the story about Autotrader. Now, we were a print business before, and we had to become a digital technology marketplace online. And the different auto traders around the world, for everybody that's listening, we're all unrelated. And, we're friends with each other, but we're not owned by each other, if that makes sense. All the auto traders around the world were at one point in time a print business. So most of the auto traders were print businesses. There was one in the world that went out of business because they didn't navigate the digital transformation or digital transition properly, and that was the one in Australia.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
They actually do not exist anymore. Autotrader is non-existent there because they failed. So we navigated that in South Africa, and we did it very, very differently to any of the other auto traders in the world, in that we did the transition slowly with the brand of Autotrader, and we had the same sales team selling to our customers. We had an integrated transition. It took us 10 years to do. And the reason for that is because South Africa has got so many different demographics. People were at different places in their digital transition, personally as a consumer. So we couldn't just shut the magazine, start an online business. It just wouldn't work. Okay. Autotrader in America, on the other hand, did it very differently. They started an independent brand online, let that grow as an internet business, and then changed its name to Autotrader and shut their magazine. So they actually created a separate business online. Okay, so that's how they did it. The UK Autotrader did it similar to what we did, except they used Autotrader online and Autotrader as a print business, but they had totally separate teams, totally separate staff, and they navigated their future like that. Now, getting back to the original story, Ford Motor Company, they've decided to split their operations between ICE vehicles and EVs.
Okay.
In order to try and get some momentum in manufacturing of EVs. Their plan is to step up from the 600,000 vehicles that it's aiming for 2024. So Ford, 118-year-old company, as you know, and it's now split its operations, and it's focusing on EVs in separate processes and separate plants.
Do you, having experienced the changes that you managed at Autotrader, do you think that's a sensible thing to do, is to separate the companies out and to do it that way? Electric vehicles on one side and ICE vehicles on the other?
I would say that would depend on the market that they're in. Just like I described, Autotrader was in different markets, did things in different ways. You've got to do your operations based on the nuances of the market that you're in, even if you've got an identical product. And I think that's the lesson I learned from Autotrader, is that it doesn't always happen the same in every market.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that Ford is right or wrong, because I've never manufactured a car in my life. So this could very well work out for them. We haven't seen this happen with any other manufacturer yet.
Okay.
And then a local debacle, which is, you probably read about this, and that is the licensing centers shut down in Gauteng after protests. Now, to get into the detail of this, the several licensing centers in Gauteng shut down last week because there were protests that the online license booking system, that I think is a step forward, to be honest, for consumers, the runners and the booking agencies that book for you, you pay a fee to, now can't operate.
Well, too bad. Because actually, I mean, if you can go online and book your thing yourself and you can do it for free, why should you have to pay some intermediary to do it for you, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds like that, the licensing department was giving a heads up for about a year already. So, so the licensing centers that are now closed until further notice is Midrand, Strydom Park, Roodepoort, Region E licensing department. I don't even know where that is. Langlaagte, Ormonde, and Eureka House. So, driving schools, associations, runners are very upset about this, and we'll follow the story as it develops.
It is sad from a job perspective. I mean, you think of how many people will be out of jobs because of this. But with that kind of warning, you kind of wish that they'd evolved into something else in the meantime.
I'm sorry, if George and his business hadn't gone online and they hadn't started making, Autotrader the kind of digital business that it is now, then he wouldn't have had any jobs for any of those people either. He would have gone the way of Australia. If you are no longer providing a service that people can't get a better version of online, if you're still doing that and thinking that you're going to have a job, then you're the fool, not the market. You can't blame the market when there are changes. Tough titties, I'm sorry. Those people are out of a job and they deserve it.
Well, you got it. You got to move with the times. You got to transition. You can't sit in an antiquated way. I mean, many of our people, we try to train many success stories of upskill. As a matter of fact, those people that didn't have roles in our business. So the way we did it, we had approximately 300 staff, Gareth, in the print days, and because of a very process heavy system,
sure.
We now sit with roughly just over half that. But what we did as a management team was we allowed natural attrition. So we tried not to do big retrenchments. So as people resigned, we said, can we do this job somewhere else in the business? Can we consume the skills somewhere?
That's clever, and that's unfortunately what's going to happen. So in other words, these protesters have now shut down the testing centers. So that's or the licensing centers. So that's going to make their jobs even harder, because now they've proven not only that they're no longer relevant in this market, but also that they're a nuisance. So people are going to get annoyed. This is the way you count yourself out of the future, I'm afraid. Tough.
Exactly. So then, very final story, Gareth. I thought I'd end on a light note, and that is, how much does it cost to drive through every single toll gate in South Africa, of which there are 74? Take a guess.
Well, I know why you're bringing this up. Because they've just put up the toll gate fees. They've just pushed those fees up. So it's costing more than it ever has to use toll gates. But how many are there? 70?
There's 74.
74 toll gates. I went through a couple of them when I went to Mpumalanga last time. They were about 25 Rand each.
That's
so
roughly.
multiply that by 74. My maths is shit, so let me get my calculator out. Hang on. 74 times 25. It's about 1,850 Rand.
You're not far off, Gareth. 2,258 Rand 70. That's what it would cost you on every on-ramp and off-ramp and toll gate, 2,258 Rand. So now a trip from Cape Town to Durban would cost you 93 Rand. A trip from Joburg to Bloemfontein, 161 Rand. A trip from Joburg to Cape Town, 205 Rand. A trip from Joburg to Durban, 286 Rand. As a matter of fact, shorter distance to Durban, but it costs 86 Rand or 80 Rand more. Joburg to Beitbridge via Polokwane is 293 Rand. So toll fees have just gone up.
So the average toll gate, if I take that 2,258 Rand or whatever it is, and I divide that by 74, you get about 30 Rand per toll gate. So if you don't have 30 Rand, and I've seen this happen once or twice, people who don't have the money to get through the toll gate, and then they create a huge backup because they're sitting there and they don't have if you don't have 30 Rand and 50 cents, there's a high likelihood you won't make it through the toll gate. So rather don't go anywhere.
I've been stuck there
go
before.
On that, if
have
you're
you been
stuck
there?
That's
You have?
all of the go
Hang on,
on.
Shanray's been stuck at a toll gate before, yeah?
Yeah, I've been stuck at a toll gate. It's because I worked for Capitec, so like I've been banking with him ever since I worked with him, and their cards don't work there. And I drove to the I drove to the toll gate, and I was there, but I'm keep swiping the card, and someone is like, someone behind was like, turn the card around, you're using it wrong, because they just see a black card. They're like, oh, he's probably using the card wrong, and I turned it didn't want to work, so I had to like get out of my car and literally walk and be like, guys, I don't have cash.
No.
Can I send you like a cash send? And like, what is a cash send? Then I'm explaining, no, it's like Capitex thing. It's like e-wallet, but then you can withdraw it from a Pick n Pay or anyway. But then someone recognized me. I was like, hey, Outsurance. Yeah, man. Here's $30. Go pay for your toll gate.
Oh wow!
Listen, George. Above says one thing he has an issue with at the toll gates is that they charge the same price for cars and motorcycles. Motorcycles should be paying 50% of the price of cars, in my opinion. I agree with that.
Doesn't it have something to do with the number of wheels?
Yeah, I mean, the motorcycles are just categorized with what's called class 1 light vehicles. So they're classified with cars.
Lighter. I mean, they should give them a 50%. I agree with you, Bav. I'm with you. 50% off.
I'm with you too.
I think
absolutely-
Buff drives a. I think Buff drives a motorcycle. He's biased. I think they should pay the same. If you, because the thing is, you can pass traffic. I think that's your thing that you get driving a motorcycle, is that you'll never be in traffic. So it's fine. But at the toll gate, let's pay the same. Because we on the road together, so you must pay.
Put a spanner in the works, Buv. If motorcycle toll fees come down, the 4-wheel VW Polo toll fees will go up.
All right, thank you, George. Good to see you, Shanray. Nice to have you on the show this morning, dude. And we'll hopefully see you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gareth. I really had fun.
Thanks, dude. We will see you all on Monday, 6 o'clock in the morning. Have an excellent weekend.